Welcome back. It was a crime which pushed everything else off the front pages. 3 men, all known criminals, found shot dead in the Essex countryside. It was a cold-blooded, professional killing. The victims had many enemies, but which one wanted them executed?
And welcome back to a new video on the Essex Boys case. As always, if you are enjoying the content, please do give the video a thumbs up. And if you're interested in the Essex Boys case, or simply true crime in general, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. 3 men were shot in the head as they sat in a car after apparently being lured to a remote farm track in Essex. The men, thought to be criminals, were found shortly before 8 AM yesterday. A farmer and his friend were going to feed their pheasants at White House Farm, Rettendon near Chelmsford when they discovered the blue 7-year-old Range Rover with the men slumped inside. The identities of the men, all believed to come from South Essex, and details of their previous convictions were not disclosed. Detective Superintendent Ivan Dibley, who is leading the investigation into what is believed to be a gangland killing, said, quote, "It was not an ordinary murder. It appears that they were enticed to go down the lane or an arrangement was made for them to be there." Shotgun cartridges were found in the snow near the car, which was parked 250 yards down Workhouse Lane. The track runs from the main south end to Chelmsford Road to a private fishing lake. Police believe the men were shot at point-blank range in the car. The murderer, possibly with an accomplice, is then understood to have driven away. "We don't know if we're looking for one perpetrator or 2, Mr. Dibley said. We also don't know whether somebody arrived in the same vehicle as the victims or came in their own." The track, in which a hijacked lorry was dumped several years ago, was so narrow that police were unable to take the bodies from the Range Rover to carry out a post-mortem examination. Instead, the men, all white and aged between 20 and 40, were left inside the car. The vehicle was covered with a green tarpaulin and taken to South Woodham Ferrers for examination 6 hours after the bodies were found. Peter Theobald, the farmer who found the bodies, and his friend Ken Jiggins, a bricklayer, thought that the Range Rover belonged to fishermen when they saw it blocking the track. "We were driving down the farm track to feed the birds," Mr. Jiggins, 44, said. "The Range Rover was parked close to a locked gate which leads to the lake. We thought that perhaps it was fishermen, but they have their own key, so I got out, walked up to the Range Rover and tapped on the window and told them to move it. There was no response. I looked in and then walked back to Peter and told him that there were 2 people in there who, by the looks of it, had been shot dead." Peter then got out of the car, walked up to the vehicle, he looked in and said, "There's one in the back as well." We got hold of the police and told them what we had seen. People living nearby said they heard nothing on Wednesday night or early yesterday morning. Ron Foe, owner of Rettendon Hall, said, quote, "We are shooting people. It would not be that unusual to hear guns at night. People go lamping for rabbits and foxes. We are into shotguns, but we heard nothing." The following newspaper article is from the 8th of December 1995 with the headline, "Hitman Swaps Sides." 3 drug dealers found shot dead yesterday were savagely executed by a hitman who changed sides. Craig Rolfe and Patrick Tate went out with Tony Tucker to meet the contract killer and fix the death of a rival they believed had grassed on them. But in an amazing twist, the assassin had already been paid an estimated £20,000 by their target to blow them away. As the 3 men sat in their 7-year-old Range Rover parked down an isolated farm track at Rettendon Essex, the gunman stealthily approached through the snow. Then, possibly joined by a second hitman, he opened up through the near-side rear window with a pump-action sawn-off shotgun, nearly blasting their heads off. The men were only identified by police fingerprint files. A CID source said yesterday, quote, "It was a brilliantly executed assassination." The victims were lured to the lane to discuss having someone else hit, but the tables were turned on them. They drove into an ambush and were shot to pieces. A source at Essex Police added, quote, "We had excellent information that Rolfe and Tate have been trying to hire a killer to rub out a rival drug dealer. But it seems the intended victim got his shot in first. Tucker was a pal and minder of Dark Destroyer boxing hero Nigel Benn. Tate had a conviction for armed robbery. Rolfe also had a robbery conviction. They died as a direct result of the police war on drug dealers following the tragic death of ecstasy girl Leah Betts, 18, last month. Their intended victim pushed ecstasy in Raquel's nightclub at Basildon, where Leah's fatal tablet is believed to have been bought. The bodies were discovered at breakfast time yesterday by farmer Peter Theobald, 44, and farm worker Ken Jiggins, 47. The pair stumbled on the death wagon in tree-lined Workhouse Lane, near Mr Theobald's farm, on the main A130 Chelmsford to Basildon Road as they set out to feed pheasants. The metallic blue Range Rover, registration F424NPE, was parked tight up against a 5-bar gate and hidden from the road by trees. Ken said, quote, "The car was parked in front of the gate and we needed to get through. I got out and tapped on the window to ask the driver to move on. Looking in the window, it seemed there were 2 people fast asleep inside. But when I looked closer, I could see both had been shot. I called Peter over. He peered in the back window and said, 'There's another one here.' The driver was upright with his head bowed onto his chest. The front passenger was in the same position. But the man in the back was slumped sideways. There was blood around his chin, which spilled onto his chest." Last night, murder police battled against cruel weather to save desperately needed clues in the snow. They feared they would lose possible tyre and footprints if a thaw set in. Others called in a low loader to take the Range Rover away with a tarpaulin hiding the bloodied bodies inside. Locals, mainly farm workers used to the sound of shotgun fire, were stunned by the horror. Margaret Lane, who lives nearby, said, "It's scary, we're very isolated here." The following newspaper article is from the 9th of December 1995 with the headline, "Gun Deaths, No Leah Link." The detective leading the hunt for the killer who shot 3 men on an isolated Essex farm track last night dismissed rumours of a link with the Leah Betts tragedy. Detective Superintendent Ivan Dibley of Essex Police confirmed that all 3 were quite high up in the drug dealing hierarchy, but warned that speculation on a link with Leah's death might hinder the investigation. Last night, police were continuing to hunt for clues with a fingertip search of the area around the murder scene at White House Farm Rettendon near the A130 Chelmsford to Southend Road. The bodies of Craig Rolfe, Patrick Tate and Anthony Tucker were found at about 8 a.m. on Thursday, slumped in a Range Rover on the snow-covered farm track. Donna Jaggers, Rolfe's girlfriend for 7 years and the mother of his 6-year-old child, appealed for people to help catch the killer or killers. She wept as she pleaded, quote, "I would just like anyone who was with them, who knows anything about what happened, or if they saw anything, to just come forward." Police had earlier visited the parents of Leah Betts, the 18-year-old who died after taking ecstasy, to keep them abreast of developments. But after intense media speculation that the triple killing might be linked with Leah's death, Detective Superintendent Dibley said, quote, "At this moment in time, there is nothing to suggest that these men distributed drugs to Leah Betts or her associates." All 3 men, he said, were well known to the police, having been convicted of armed robbery, vehicle theft and other offences, and although none of them had been convicted for drug offences, all were known to be quite high up in dealing in all kinds of substances. Detective Superintendent Dibley said police could well be looking for more than one killer, but last night a weapons expert confirmed that spent shotgun cartridges found at the scene had all come from the same gun. Quote, "There could be a power struggle or there could be a double cross which has taken place." Detective Superintendent Dibley added, "It might be that someone has owed money but hasn't paid their bill." He said Rolfe was last seen at 6 p.m. the evening before the bodies were found. He had failed to meet Miss Jaggers for a meal 2 hours later, fueling speculation that the men were killed on Wednesday evening. Rolfe, 26 from Grays, and Tucker, 38 from Fobbing, both died from shotgun wounds to the head. Tate, 37 from Basildon, died of shotgun wounds to the head and torso. If you would like to learn more about the Range Rover murders, then click on the video in front of you now. You will also see the Essex Boys playlist, which has all of the videos concerning this case in one convenient folder. Many thanks for joining me for this video. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.